You'll do as I say." She said that to me as she was about to make a request. Having unintentionally seen something of hers, I was overwhelmed by guilt, or something similar. I had no choice but to listen to her. How did this happen? Well, my name is Tyler. Currently, I run a quiet coffee shop on the first floor of a building. When I say coffee shop, I'm not talking about the trendy ones serving flashy-looking drinks, but rather the ones that specialize in coffee, essentially, old-fashioned coffee houses. I've always loved coffee. Before I realized it, I found myself running my own place. I researched coffee beans and brewing techniques, worked hard to make the best coffee. After much dedication, I finally had my own shop. Of course, every coffee I served is my pride and joy. For those who aren't fans of bitter tastes, I also have a variety of items like café au laits, suitable for beginners. I've created light meals that go well with coffee. It's truly a place made for coffee lovers. Now, being a huge coffee enthusiast, I drink multiple cups a day, so much so that my doctor advised me to cut back. I have to stay healthy to keep the shop going, after all. It's crucial to manage stress and have some outlets, but dang, haha, the coffee here is as bad as ever, haha. That's how I'm battling stress right now. It's currently 9:30 in the morning. I set the shop's opening time at 10 a.m., so it's technically before opening, but there's a man at the counter, enjoying a sandwich and coffee while tossing out insults. His name is Kevin. He's an incredibly rude fellow, but I can't say anything against him. Why, you ask? Well, let me tell you. Kevin owns the building where my shop is located. If I upset him, there's a chance I might get kicked out. I've seen tenants being evicted before, and I've only had this shop for about a year. Moreover, this guy always comes before opening hours. I don't have to worry about weird rumors because of that, but it's still unpleasant. If you think it doesn't taste good, you don't have to come, Kevin. You must be a busy man. If I can get a free meal, why not? Even if it's bad to my gourmet taste, it's probably just right for the average Joe. Haha. In exchange for a discounted rent, I occasionally serve him breakfast. I eagerly accepted that deal, but if I could go back, I'd punch my past self. Sure, Kevin is an investor in real estate and other ventures. That means he has a refined palate, but it is not certain whether his sense of taste is truly superior. Anyway, being criticized like this doesn't feel good, but I have to endure for now. After finishing the sandwich and coffee I made, Kevin remarked, "Today's was a bit better, haha, keep it up," and left with some mysterious advice. He stayed for 20 minutes. He leaves right around opening time, so it doesn't interfere with my business. But man, it's exhausting. But that's not the customer's concern. I have to do my best for those who come to enjoy my coffee. A few hours later, around 2 p.m. when the rush started to calm down, the chime of the doorbell rang, signaling a new customer's entrance. "Welcome, just one of you." "Ah, yes, just me." The person who entered was a woman with glasses. Her round face complemented her short bob, and she wore a lacy skirt. She looked quite young. Moreover, she stared intently at me, making me tilt my head in confusion. I had shown her to a seat, but she didn't move. Maybe there's something on my face. "Excuse me, ma'am, is there something? Sorry for coming out of nowhere. Are you Tyler from North Elementary and Northridge Middle School?" She stared at me intensely as she said that. Hearing her words, my eyes widened. Because she had correctly named the schools I went to. At the very least, this woman in front of me seemed to know me. I gave a small nod. "Yes, that's me, but I knew it. It's me, Emily. Don't you remember?" "What, Emily?" The shop was empty at the moment, and I couldn't help but raise my voice. "Emily, unforgettable. She's my childhood friend. I can't recall when we first met. We lived close by, attended the same preschool, and played a lot at the same park. Emily's parents ran a business, So she was like a little heiress, while I came from an average household. But such differences didn't matter in our childhood, and Emily and I shared countless adventures. From racing to hide and seek, to seeing who could make the biggest mud pie. We spent so much time together that even in elementary school, we were inseparable. In fact, Emily was so shy that she'd say she was scared to go to school if I wasn't with her. Her concerned parents even considered transferring her, but she was adamant. I don't want to be separated from Tyler. She was quite stubborn, to say the least. So, we went to and from school together, and I often hung out at her house. Our parents became close too, and whenever my folks were late from work, Emily's parents would let me stay over. Their house was so grand, it was every kid's dream. But our close bond broke in middle school. Why? Because I heard Emily got a boyfriend. She always had a youthful, round face which made her popular among the boys in middle school. So when I heard she got a boyfriend, honestly, I was jealous. I regretted not confessing my feelings to her sooner and realized for the first time that I had fallen for Emily. Moreover, I witnessed Emily entering the science prep room with an older boy from a year above. Curious, I sneaked a peek and saw Emily and him hugging each other. In an empty classroom, just the two of them sneaking around. Well, the nature of their relationship was pretty clear. In that moment, I realized that although I had feelings for Emily, it was too late. I distanced myself from her. Can't blame me, right? The senior she was with was good looking, and I felt I couldn't be by Emily's side. At the very least, I didn't want to stand in the way of her happiness. And so, our connection was broken. Emily reached out a few times after starting high school, but I never felt like responding. Eventually, her messages stopped coming. But now, after all this time, why is Emily standing right in front of me? We hadn't met since becoming adults, so I didn't recognize her immediately. But now, even with makeup, she's unmistakably Emily. I'm so glad. You remember me. How could I forget? But why are you here? I saw your cafe in a magazine, so I just had to come. Come to think of it, my cafe had been featured in magazines a few times. Apparently, Emily saw one of those and decided to drop by. Thanks for coming. Feel free to relax and stay a while. Tyler, do you have time later? Huh? There's something I really need to ask. I know it's presumptuous to suddenly show up like this, but you're the only one I can ask. Emily looked desperate and anxious. It seems there's a significant matter at hand. Seeing her distressed, I took a quick glance at the clock. Okay, I understand. My cafe closes at 6 p.m. Can you come by afterward? I'll treat you to a coffee, considering you've come all this way. Thank you. I felt bad leaving Emily in her current state, but I couldn't leave the shop during business hours. We decided to meet up later, and Emily left for the time being. By the way, my cafe operates from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. I don't offer a breakfast menu because I want customers to savor their coffee. With that thought, I decided to prepare a coffee for Emily and watched her leave. After 6 p.m., when the shop had closed, Emily returned. With no other customers around, she seemed a bit more relaxed. I offered her a low caffeine latte and took a seat opposite her. It reminded me of the times we used to hang out at diners, sipping on soft drinks and chatting away. But now, there wasn't time for nostalgic conversations. She looked too troubled. So, what did you want to ask? I know it's a strange request, but please, will you pretend to be my boyfriend? What? Emily nearly bowed to the ground as she begged me. I, on the other hand, was surprised by the unexpected request. Why on earth would she ask such a thing? Curious, I listened to her story. Given that Emily was a CEO's daughter, her father had been pressuring her to get married and even set her up for an arranged date. The other party was an acquaintance of her father's, and for Emily, who isn't particularly social, it was a complete hassle. So, on the spot, she told them, I already have a boyfriend, to refuse the arrangement. However, he said he fell for me at first sight from my photo and wouldn't take no for an answer. He said I could bring my boyfriend, and he'd be willing to talk. I'm kind of in a bind now since I said I had a boyfriend. Sounds like quite the assertive guy. Please, just this once, Emily pleaded, bowing her head again. Sure, I've known Emily since we were kids, and if asked about our past, I could easily talk about it. It might even be easy to play along. An image of Emily's dad flashed in my mind, but seeing Emily right in front of me, desperate, I posed a question. Don't you have a boyfriend now? I remember you had one in middle school, or at least some guy friends. What? No, I don't. I've never even had a boyfriend. What? Emily looked shocked, but I was even more surprised. I was sure Emily had a boyfriend in middle school. But when I mentioned that, did I ever say I had a boyfriend? But what about you and that senior in the science prep room? Oh, that, Emily was surprised that she was being watched, but the person she was meeting with at that time was her friend's boyfriend, and they were discussing a friend's gift. And when she almost tripped, the senior caught her. That's what I had witnessed. So that's why you suddenly became distant in middle school. Well, I thought it would be problematic if there was a misunderstanding. Right. I had never heard directly from Emily about having a boyfriend. Just got that notion from mutual friends and the situation I had misunderstood. Back then, I was so shocked, I didn't even try to clarify. What's that? I was so hurt at the time. Why didn't you ask me? I didn't have the courage to. Sorry. I genuinely apologized. From Emily's perspective, I had suddenly become distant and didn't even reach out. It's only natural for her to feel hurt. Pouting, Emily said, if you feel guilty, then do as I say. With that, I agreed to her proposal. Being Emily's pretend boyfriend, even temporarily, isn't so bad, right? That's what I thought, but then. Why is Tyler here? Huh, Kevin. We were set for a formal date in a rather fancy restaurant, but to my surprise, the other party was none other than Kevin. Oh boy, this is looking pretty bad. There's even a chance I might get kicked out of the place. But by agreeing to act as Emily's boyfriend, I had already risked offending Kevin. So, it was already too late to back out. I decided to focus on protecting Emily. Though I had that in mind, the meeting turned out to be a disaster. Kevin went on and on about how bad my taste was. This guy has no taste buds whatsoever. He always serves turbo coffee. He's barely scraping by thanks to some online reviews, but he's just a pool cafe owner kept afloat by a few loyal customers. He's not good enough for you, Emily. I don't know what he told you, but you shouldn't be with this loser. I was amazed at how condescending he could be. For the most part, I just let it slide. But Emily's reaction caused an even bigger scene. Enough. Don't mock Tyler. You probably don't know much about coffee, do you? I'm a bit of a coffee enthusiast, making it from fresh beans every day. His coffee might sell okay, but it's not that great. He doesn't even realize how bad it is. Just because I'm not a coffee expert doesn't mean I don't know Tyler's skill. Maybe it's you with no taste buds. Emily, calm down. Emily was fuming, while Kevin smirked confidently. There's no way I have poor taste, right? This is supposed to be a date, right? Not a fight. I was relieved I was there with Emily, but I also felt guilty for causing all this. However, Emily ended the argument with one sentence. You might have said Tyler's coffee is bad, but how could a barista who won first place in the World Coffee Championships make bad coffee? Huh? The room went silent. I was worried when she brought that up, but Kevin looked utterly stunned. Seeing this, Emily went on the offensive. Tyler's pretty well known in the industry. Even if you think you have a refined palate, calling Tyler's coffee bad doesn't make sense. Yes, personal preference plays a role, but your comments about Tyler lack any real basis. But then why doesn't he advertise that? There was nothing about that in his cafe. Kevin glared at me, to which I sighed and replied, if I flaunted that, it'd bias people's opinions of my coffee, so I was trying not to mention it. Seriously, I had reluctantly featured my cafe in a magazine. Everyone would naturally think that coffee made by a champion barista would be amazing. I just wanted people to enjoy my coffee without any preconceptions. Saying this, I pulled out a folded magazine clipping from my wallet and showed it to him. Honestly, I was genuinely happy to be featured in the magazine, and I kept the clipping in my wallet as a sort of good luck charm. Seeing this and realizing that the story was true, Kevin began to wince and shake. Despite all his complaints, he still came to drink my coffee. He probably recognized its quality. His ego probably couldn't handle praising coffee he thought was made by a regular Joe like me. That's why he'd been belittling me so much. But I knew that there were plenty of people who truly appreciated my work, so I could brush off Kevin's ranting. In the end, Kevin stormed off saying, "You'll regret this," and the date was called off. We decided to head home. "I'm sorry. Do you think you will get kicked out of the building?" "It's okay. Even if we do, they'll give us some time. If it comes to that, I'll just try my luck somewhere new." Saying this, I escorted Emily back to her family's home. While I was concerned about the cafe, I felt good about standing up for Emily. But now that this was over, would Emily and I drift apart again? The mere thought filled me with a deep sense of loneliness. It felt a lot like when I heard Emily had gotten a boyfriend. Did I want to be away from Emily again? No, definitely not, especially after rekindling our bond. This time, I want to be right by her side. "Hey, Emily, what's up?" I stopped walking, and she did too. Looking straight into her eyes, I declared, "I've always loved you, Emily. I want to be your real boyfriend." Though my heart was racing, Emily, tears in her eyes, whispered, "I've waited so long to hear that," and she embraced me. Despite my romantic confession, our surroundings shifted dramatically after that. First, after confessing, I immediately headed over to Emily's parents' home to greet them after a long time and to get down on one knee, saying we're officially dating now, so please don't bring up any arranged marriage talks. Her parents, especially her father, were pretty furious that the date had been disrupted. When the main culprit turned out to be me, he didn't seem to change his opinion. Well, he's a CEO after all. He probably wanted his daughter to marry someone of appropriate status or wealthy. However, Emily secretly recorded the whole encounter with Kevin during the matchmaking and played it back, saying, "Dad, you really can't judge a person." Hearing Kevin's rude remarks, Emily's mother chimed in, "If Emily has to marry someone like that, I'd rather she be with Tyler." With that, we gained in a lie. In the end, her father gave in, and we were allowed to date. As for the cafe I was worried about, I didn't get kicked out. Actually, Kevin was no longer the owner. Emily's father, as a way to make amends, bought several buildings owned by Kevin. Turns out, Kevin had a habit of berating other tenants in the building, just like he did with me. He got sued by a bunch of them. The settlements put a significant dent in his finances. The real estate world has its interconnections, so Kevin's been feeling pretty cornered. Emily's father was furious, saying, "He dare hurl those nasty words at my daughter." It seems he took various steps to set things right. After a few months, I stopped hearing about Kevin entirely. I'm not sure what's become of him. As for us, Emily started helping out at my cafe, so we're together almost all the time. Though we've only been dating a few months, it feels like we've known each other forever. We've even talked about getting married on our first anniversary. Why not marry right now? We want to enjoy our relationship a bit longer, that's all. For now, I just want to be la vie de vie with Emily. In a few years, though, we'd be married, blessed with children, and the cafe would be booming. But that's a story for another time.